Hey there, my friend. Welcome to the Leadership Table podcast. And I'm just so excited to spend time with you today. As we're coming to the end of January, and now you had all your New Year's resolutions, the question becomes, how do you keep building momentum? How do you keep building momentum after all the excitement is gone, after all of the preparation is gone, and now you're going into the rest of this year? I want to share with you a few things that is so important when it comes to building momentum. And the first is this, is that we have to be aware of these 1-degree shifts. You see, I remember reading this book, 212 Degrees. And in the book, it spoke about how going from 211 to 212 degrees, it only sounds like it's 1 degree. But that 1 degree is powerful. And the reason why it's so powerful is that 1 degree changes everything because it goes from being water to steam. And if you think about it, water to steam changed even how we ship things across America because you had steam engines that were able to get things across. But I want to share with you about momentum in the context of that 1 degree shift. And then momentum is this. Is that these 1 degree shifts are so important because when you have momentum, it'll take you through things. It'll get you through tough times. It'll get you through the uncomfortableness of it. But when you don't have momentum, it's almost like everything is impossible. And I just want to share with you that if you had an engine, a train, that's moving at 60 miles per hour and it's boogieing and it's got momentum, it literally will go through a 5-foot steel enforced wall when it has full momentum. But that same train, when it has one of the wood blocks that go underneath the wheel, it can't even get started. The reason is that it's momentum. And I want to give you some practical things that you can do in this upcoming year to build momentum. Because I know that when you have momentum, you look better than you are. And when you don't have momentum, you look worse than you are. So I just want to share with you from my heart some things that you can use to get momentum. The first is this. It's stay in your area of giftedness. Stay in your area of strength. It's the area that brings you the most fulfillment. It's the area that you have the greatest influence in. It's the area that people around you find to be most valuable. When you can stay more in that area, when you can stay more in the area that is going to add the most value to the people around you, guess what's going to happen? You're going to start getting some momentum. Now, that's you staying in your giftedness. Now, I want to throw something out there to you. What happens if the people that are on your team are also in their area of giftedness? Changes everything. My wife and I and our organization, Lions Pride, we call that a gifted organization. It's where you have people that are operating in their area of giftedness that are adding value to everyone on the team. That helps build momentum. It allows things to get done quicker. It allows things to get done easier. It allows things to get done with a greater level of excellence. For so many years, and I'm just sharing this with you out of my heart because I think part of my calling is to share the struggles that I went through so that maybe you don't have to go through them. But for so many years, I didn't want people to think that I wasn't good in things. Because to me, that was an insecurity. To me, if people thought that I wasn't good in things, then what would happen is I would not want them to know, so I would cover it up. But the truth of it is, I wasn't only covering things up, I was breaking any potential momentum that I could have. And the reason is that I was operating in weaknesses because I didn't want people to know that I had these weaknesses. But the truth of it is that they knew that I had those weaknesses. Whether or not I said it publicly, they knew it. All you needed to do was ask them. And my friend, for you, as you're in this new year, as you're going from January to February, I just want to encourage you. Stay in your giftedness. Stay in your strengths. We utilize our giftedness leadership assessment. What our giftedness leadership assessment does is it recognizes the areas that you're most passionate about, the areas that you're most competent and good at. And when you take those areas and you put passion and competency and you put them together, that's where you get momentum. That's where I get momentum. So I want to encourage you, as you're going from January to February, as you're going into this next season of your life, don't just try to do everything. What are the areas that you're good at? What are the areas that the people on your team are good at? And when I say good, I want to give you a little personal story. Being good at something but not passionate at something is not giftedness. I'll give you a case in point. I had a mentor many years ago. He really helped me tremendously. But he saw something in me that he didn't have. And he said to me, Chad, I really think you're really good at this. This is a strength of yours. And what he didn't realize was to him, it was a strength because he didn't have that skill set. And he saw the skill set that I had and I was competent at it. He didn't realize that I wasn't passionate at it. So what happens when you're competent at something but not passionate about it is people will recognize you for the gift, for the strength, but it's not a giftedness, because a giftedness requires a passion to want to do it. And that really set me off, because I remember having this conversation with a mentor at that time, and I remember saying to him, I said, Rich, you see that I'm good at it. And I'm better than you. So to you, you say, hey, you're better than this. You're better than I am in this area. I said, but Rich, I can only do that area for a very little period of time before I get totally emotionally drained and I have no energy. So if I keep doing that area for long periods of time, eventually I'm going to get frustrated, and frustration will eventually build into resentment. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is I'm helping you learn from my life, and I'm sharing with you that giftedness is so key. It's not just something that you're good at. You could be good at something and not passionate about it, and you got to be careful that if you do that for too long, you may find yourself in the situation that I found myself in. Let me give you another daily discipline that you could do, a daily habit that you can do. So it's staying focused on being in your giftedness. Here's the second one. Prepare for the next day. That is a daily habit that I've created that helps me get momentum. You could ask my wife. I could be exhausted and I'm preparing for the next day. I could be out with friends, and let's say it's a weekday and then it's a late night, but I got to prepare for the next day. The reason why preparing for the next day is such a momentum builder is it's because when you wake up, you don't have to try to decide what you need to do the next day. I'm telling you, for 14 years, now I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but for 14 years, mostly almost every day, Monday through Friday, I've prepared for the next day. And the reason why is I'm always looking for, what are some of the things that give me a competitive advantage? Well, what are things that allow our organization to have a competitive advantage? And one of the things is when I prepare the night before, when I wake up, I'm not waking up and saying, well, what am I going to do today? I already know what I'm doing that day. And the reason is I've clearly laid out what my game plan is for that upcoming day. And you want to know what that does? It allows momentum. It allows the things that most people are having to deal with during the day. I don't have to deal with some of that. And the reason is that I've prioritized what's important in my day. And I want to encourage you that a lot of momentum that is broken in people's lives, it's not broken because they don't know how to get momentum. It's broken because they don't know how to keep momentum. You see, if you can get momentum but you can't keep it, then what's going to happen is you're going to have to keep starting and working really hard to keep that momentum going. But if you prepare the night before every day for the next day, that what becomes priorities for some people may not be a priority for you anymore, because you said, hey, I prepared and I'll get to that next week, or we'll put some time in the calendar of 2 weeks from now to go over that. When we don't prepare intentionally, it allows other people's priorities to become your priority. And I can tell you this, I love people, I care for people, I add value to people. But I'm not going to allow people to dictate my calendar. And I don't say that rude and disrespectfully. I say that with true humbleness around it, honestly, because I don't want to see you have people dictate your calendar, because you're going to find that they're going to have things that they want done that may not be in line with the things that you need to get done. And unless you've prepared for that the day before, or even the week before, or the month before, of what you were going to accomplish, you're going to find that you'll get distracted. And distraction breaks momentum. So I gave you two things, right? I gave you giftedness. I gave you preparing for the next day. Now let me give you the third one. It's the lessons learned from that day. These are daily habits that you can do that can really impact your momentum. The reason why I say that is this. Momentum builds upon itself. So if you really think about really what momentum is movement. And every time the movement happens, it gains a little bit more momentum. Jim Collins, in his book, speaks about the flywheel and how important the flywheel is to getting momentum. Now, momentum, every time you go around in a cycle, if you have momentum, it gets bigger and more impactful. But if you don't, it actually gets smaller. So what I want to say here is how important it is to learn a lesson from that day. You just think about this for a moment. You spent 24 hours in that day. You interacted with so many different people. You had client meetings. You had meetings with your team. You got get-togethers with your family. In that 24-hour period of time, if you don't learn a lesson from it, what's something that you could take away from that day to say, how can I improve tomorrow? Guess what happens? Tomorrow is just a repeat of today. That's the reason why I encourage leaders to debrief every day. For me, as a business, let me take a step back. As a business leader, we're taught to close out the books, right? So you that month you close out the books for that month, and then the next month you close out the books. You want to make sure that your income, your expenses, and all of it match up. You close out the books so you can see how you're doing as a company, right? Why don't we use that same methodology to close out our day? Let's learn the lesson from that day. Let's close it out. Let's review what meetings were I in, what meetings went well, what meetings could I improve. Should I invest more time with that person? That daily closing out of your day is going to help you get and drive tremendous momentum. Just try it for a week. You don't have to commit to it for the year. Commit to it for the next 7 days and see what happens. Watch what happens. It'll change everything. You're going to see that all of a sudden, wow, things are happening quicker. How are they happening quicker? Because you learned from the day and you applied it the next day. It's very powerful, my friend. Next is the 1 degree shifts. Now, I spoke about that earlier with you about 1 degree shifts. But I want to share with you the story behind it. So my friend, my mentor, my spiritual dad, Joe Matera, he said to me one day, he said, Chad, in life, you have to manage your 1 degrees. And I didn't understand them at the time, but now I understand it. It's the 1 degrees in our life that will literally take us off course. It's the It's the 1 degrees in business where we start getting away from the ethics, and all of a sudden we start making unethical decisions. It's the 1 degree where we stop investing in our people. It's the 1 degree where little by little we start getting away from the things that was making us successful. It's the 1 degree of getting away from being a lifelong learner. Managing those 1 degree shifts are so important. It's important because it requires us to be present and aware to what's actually happening in our life. You know, those 1 degrees, those 1 degrees are the things that have a husband and wife that loved each other one day, said I do, and then they're getting divorced because they didn't manage their 1 degrees. It's the husband and wife that were totally sold out for the Lord, loved God, and all of a sudden they're no longer serving God because they didn't manage their 1 degrees. It's the business owner and business partner that were so aligned in the vision of where they were going, and then one day, because they didn't constantly manage their 1 degrees, got totally taken off course. It's the siblings that were so connected at some point, but they stopped managing their 1 degrees and no longer speak. My friend, there's so many things in our lives that are 1 degrees that we need to manage. And if we daily have that habit of managing the most important 1 degrees, it allows us to have momentum. And I'll share this because sometimes when we're coaching organizations and we're coaching leaders, they'll say to me, well, what happens in my personal life doesn't matter. And I say it matters more than you ever can even think, more than you could ever imagine. They're like, well, why? What happens in my personal life doesn't mean that it's happening up in my work. I say, no, you may think that. I said, but think about this for a moment. If you had a fight right before you came into the office with your wife, you don't think that that's making it in your office? Or if you had a brawl with your sibling before you came into that office, you don't think that that's showing up in your office? The reason why we have to manage our 1 degrees is because we are who we are everywhere we are. I'd like to say that it's very easy for me to be at home if I have an argument with my wife and then come into the office and feel like, well, I could just totally ignore it. Now, we may be able to manage the emotions around it, but it doesn't mean that it's not impacting everything that we're doing. And that's the reason why I talk about managing 1 degrees, because life and success in life, success in business is about building momentum. I often say that when you see someone that has momentum, you think that they're better than they are. When you see someone that doesn't have momentum, you think that they're worse than they are. They're really not that good and not that bad. They just got momentum. So my question to you is, what are the areas of your life that you need to manage those 1 degrees so you can keep building momentum? What are those areas of your life that you got to go in and say, what was my lesson learned from that interaction with that person? What was my lesson learned from that interaction with that client? What was my lesson learned from how I led that team in that meeting? Picture now, we're managing the 1 degrees in our life. We're learning the lessons. We're every day preparing for the next day. And I'll give you, if you go to chadreyes.com and you go to book resources, you'll actually see my daily planner there. So you'll be able to actually download. Now our team took it and made it a little bit simpler because mine is a little bit more complex, and it only is because it serves exactly what I need in my life. But you can at least see the template there. If you go to chadreyes.com /, I think it's book resources, but just go on chadreyes.com and you'll be able to get it from there. And you'll see my daily planner, but build that now into your day, and you'll see that daily planner has a couple things. And it's all momentum builders. On the top of it, it has how many days left in the year, how many days left in the quarter, in the month, and in the week. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be intentional because I know that if I'm intentional with my time then will drive momentum. And then it also has how many months until I reach 100 years old. Now, I put 100 because I'm a big believer in the power of your words. So I want to make it to 100. Actually, my wife and I want to make it to 108. So that's another story. We could talk about it another time. But how many months till 100 years old? Then it's broken up into, what does my day look like tomorrow? Now, why? Because I want to mentally prepare myself for the upcoming day. I want to get myself mentally prepared. Now, there is scientific facts that show that people that prepare the day before for their next day subconsciously are more prepared because their mind is preparing themselves even in their sleep. Now, you can go do some research on that, and I would encourage you to look into it. But preparing the day before, what does your calendar look like? It allows your mind to start processing who are the people you're going to be with, what do you need to do, and how can you add value to them? Then you go to what are the tasks that are most important for that day and prioritize them. My daily planner has that. Then you have, what is your biggest takeaway? Who did you add value to? What are you grateful for from that day? You see, all these things are momentum builders. These are daily habits that you could be doing to build momentum. When people ask me this question, they say, Chad, you seem to be very disciplined. I wish that they can understand that the discipline is not from being disciplined. The discipline is from having a vision and knowing that I want to accomplish that vision and I want to see people's lives changed. The discipline is not out of the essence of being disciplined. Most people's New Year resolutions go by the wayside because they're trying to use discipline to drive their habits instead of allowing vision and purpose to drive their habits. When you allow vision and purpose to drive your habits, you're going to go, and you're not going to have to worry about having to grind it out. You're going to want to do it. You know, as a person of faith, the word of God, it says this. It says that my people who lack vision cast off restraints. My people who lack vision cast off restraints. Meaning, when you don't have a clear vision of where you want to go, you're not going to bring discipline into your life. But when you have a clear vision of where you want to go, you're going to bring that discipline in. And the discipline is not for the purpose of discipline. It's for momentum. It's for the purpose of allowing yourself to get momentum to accomplish that vision that you have in your heart. My friend, as I wrap up, I want to encourage you to get clear on what is that vision for your life. What is that vision for 2025? And then allowing these daily habits of working in your strengths, how does that help you get to that vision quicker? Preparing for the next day, how does that help you accomplish that vision more effectively? Learning the lesson from that day, how does that allow you to go through the cycle of success, testing and failing and learning and improving and re-entering? Instead of doing that once a year, you do that 365 times in a year. How does that get you momentum closer to your vision? And then managing those 1-degree shifts in your life. Managing those 1-degree shifts, what that allows you to do is it allows you to manage the things on a daily basis that are taking you away from it, where you want to go. Hey, I'm so encouraged that you continue to show up at the leadership table. You know, as I've shared in previous leadership tables, that the leadership table is a place where mature leaders have mature conversations. And what we're talking about today is a mature conversation. And I just want to encourage you, drop a comment back in the box. Drop a comment. Hey, Chad, this is what's impacted me from the leadership table. And I promise you, we're going to be looking at it. Drop a comment and say, hey, Chad, this is how I am building momentum now in my life. Hey, share it with friends. Share it with people that you know need to hear this message because it's going to make a difference in their life. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button because we are putting up new content. I'm inviting some of the greatest leaders I know to join me at the table. And, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be having my wife and my friend Patrick to join us at the table to talk about the power of a leadership table and how you could start leadership tables at your companies. And then in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be having a friend and coach of ours, Dr. Chris Auger, joining us at the conversation at the leadership table. Hit subscribe so you know when these conversations are happening. My friend, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for allowing me in your life to just share from my heart to your heart. Until next time, may God bless you, and I look forward to seeing you on future leadership tables. Be well. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Leadership Table. I am so excited that you've joined us. Hey, listen, you want to join us in future episodes where we're going to invite some of our greatest friends, some of the greatest leaders we know to share all about their leadership journeys and just add tremendous value to you and your teams. Hey, listen, drop a comment below on your biggest takeaway, that what is impacting you the most. Like it. Share it with those people that you know need to hear this message, and subscribe. And hey, listen, turn on the notifications. I just want to thank you because you are making a difference. As you help us, we help you, and we just divide the work and multiply the impact. My friend, thank you for joining us on the Leadership Table.